Hey guys, welcome to 2Split. Today we're going to talk about the Note 20 Ultra 5G. Cream of the crop when it comes to the Samsung lineup, pretty much the powerhouse of everything they got. In a minute I'll tell you everything I love about it, and maybe others little quirks here and there that don't work so well for me. Let's get into it. Okay, so before we get really into how I feel about this very slippery device, let's talk specs. The Note 20 is rocking a massive 6.9-inch Super AMOLED 1440p display with 120 Hz refresh rate. That's visible in virtually every lighting condition. You could be, whether it's dark or smack in the middle of the day, it's super visible. The processor is a Snapdragon 865 Plus, top of the line, well, it was. Has a 108 megapixel camera with a laser autofocus. Video shoots up to 8K at 30 frames per second with electronic image stabilization. Has Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, it's still glass, wireless charging and reverse power share in case you're in a pickle somewhere and you need extra power. It has IP68 water and dust resistance. For those of you folks that think it makes sense to put your $1,000 device in water, you're just crazy. So that's it for specs. But let's talk about what really makes the Note. And you can't do that without talking about the stylus. It's still here. It's super improved. The writing feels a whole lot smoother, even with a scratchy sound that simulates like you're writing on paper. It can be used as a remote shutter. It does a lot of new fancy tricks, making you feel like Harry Potter. If you do a wave, if you do a zigzag, you can take a screenshot. If you do a certain wave, you can go back to the home screen, and a lot of other, gimmicky stuff. And it still warns you if you walk away and you leave the pen on the table that you're about to forget this pen, which you don't want to pay more money for, of course. Other than the stylus, when we talk about the camera, it has a 50x zoom using the telephoto, but sometimes it can forget to switch from the main camera to the telephoto when you're zooming, but that doesn't happen all the time. Another great feature which is still here and greatly improved is Samsung DeX, and that's on most of the flagships anyway. But basically helps you turn your phone into a computer. It connects it to a screen and allows you to use a mouse or whatever you have to multitask. You can play video, edit a Word document, really convenient. And I say it's super improved now because it's gone from having a dock to a cable, and now it's completely wireless. As long as your smart TV is on the same network, completely wireless. So I think that's super useful, especially now that a lot of people are working from home. It can act as a second computer in a pinch if you really needed it. Like I said earlier, this is not a very spec-heavy review. This phone's been out for quite a while, over 7 months. And in that time I've used this phone in real life, there's some things that bother me that I don't think they've fixed over the years. One of them is the design. The Note still has a curved edge screen, which I don't think is a very practical screen, given that it's prone to accidental inputs, especially when you're holding your Note this way and tapping things in the corner. Speaking of corners, it does have a corner, a pretty sharp one at that. So if you're like me and you have a long arm structure, this is going to rest somewhere here a lot. And after a while, that's going to start to dig into your hand, especially when you're holding it to write down your notes. And so that's another thing to consider. Camera hump is a bit improved, but it still is not the prettiest in the world. And this thing is a super fingerprint magnet. It's a shiny back. It's glass, but it's glass. So I guess that's supposed to happen. I think they could have done it better, but hey, it is what it is. The experience you get with the Note isn't the same everywhere. Depending on whether you live in the US or outside the US, if you buy this phone, you could either get it with a Snapdragon chip or an Samsung's Exynos chip. Even though Samsung claims that it does, work almost as good, we've seen it heat up in many parts, especially here in Nigeria, and quite frankly, it's not as battery efficient as a Snapdragon. This is a Snapdragon version, but even with this Note, I find, and I'm not a super heavy user, but I'm okay. Sometimes it's enough, the power is enough to get me through the day, but most of the time I'm always at the end of the battery. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a 4,500 milliamp power battery phone, but even that sometimes feels like it's just barely enough to keep this variable refresh rate screen on for as long as you need it for the entire day, at least in my usage anyway. So that's from my experience. I don't know what you guys experience, but I barely get through the day. It does get through the whole day, but it just makes it, in my opinion. And for the flagship, I don't think that should be. I think you should comfortably just boost through with at least 15-20% hanging in there. Let me know what you guys are doing with your Note 20 Ultras. It might just be me, I might be over gaming, but that's not the case. I don't believe so. What else bothers me? One UI is greatly improved over the last year or two. It's cooler, but it's still not stock Android experience. You're not gonna get that same feel. Samsung keeps chucking in bloatware in here. I don't know why. Doesn't the statistics tell them people don't need that? And then again, it could be wrong. Some people on the other side of the country maybe in Asia, might like what they put in there. But for me and most of my friends I spoke to, the browser, the game recommendations, they're usually quite off. So why don't you just leave the phone empty and let the person choose, given that this is your flagship device? You paid all that cash, at least have the choice to do what you want with it. Which is why I take out the browser and I just go back to Nova Launcher, which works great for me. But other than those nitpicking here and there, the experience you get in different countries about what size it is, what chip you have, how much space you bought it with, it still has an expandable slot. This used to be cream of the crop. Well, is cream of the crop, or was. I'll explain. The Note 21 Ultra series is out right now with a stronger flagship chipset, right? And that makes this automatically last year's flagship. However, those devices support stylus input. Yeah, come on out. Yeah. So those devices support stylus input. And if they can do that, why keep making the Note series then? So this may probably be the last Note, official Note we see from Samsung. I could be wrong, who knows? And they might just decide our new, 100% strongest devices will be the S21 Ultras, and then probably jump into the foldables, which will probably be the future focus. At least that's where I see them going. Because why have a Note if the other devices can support Note functionality? It just doesn't really make sense. Even though they don't house the pen, they can sell you an extra ugly case for it. But I could be wrong, but that's where I see them differentiating that market into anyway. But other than that, the Note is solid. It is a really powerful device. Get a good case, block out the fingerprint magnet. It's awesome. That's it. Let me know what you guys think with what Samsung is doing with their lineup. Are they heading in the right direction? Do you think it was a bad idea letting the standard S21 support the stylus? That way, automatically killing the uniqueness of the Note series. I don't know, I could be wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Take care. And the Note is unique in the sense that it takes notes. If you want to know, oh, that was terrible.